This is a short video on how to establish communications with the Klark Teknik DM8000. In this video, I will demonstrate how to connect a PC to the DM8000 to allow the user to configure and program the DSP via the Klark Teknik DM8000 design software. To start, let's first verify all other NIC connections on your PC, such as your wireless, are turned off and the only active connection is the one connecting to the DM8000. Windows can often struggle with dealing with multiple active NIC connections. Communications to the DM8000 is established through the Ethernet port, which is located on the back of the DM8000. Be sure that you are plugged into the Ethernet port and not the Ultranet ports. You can use any type of standard Ethernet cable to establish direct connection between the PC and the DSP, and the DM8000 also ships with a standard Ethernet cable. The DM8000 ships with an internal static IP of 192.168.1.201. This means that if there is no DHCP server in your network, the DSP IP will default to its internal IP number. Once you have established connection, you may change the internal DSP IP by opening the device panel and choosing Set Internal IP. Be sure to reboot or power cycle the DSP once you have manually changed the internal IP. If there is a DHCP server in the network, the IP of the DSP will be assigned by the server. If you do not have a DHCP server in your network, then we must set the PC IP static in the same subnet as the DSP's internal IP. To manually set your PC NIC card to a static IP, first, open your PC control panel and choose Network and Sharing Center. Choose Change Adapter Settings. Right-click on appropriate network connection. This would be whichever NIC you are using to communicate with the DM8000. Choose Properties. Highlight IP version 4 in the list and then choose Properties. IP properties generally default with DHCP, but we want to set it manually. Click the Use the following address node. Enter the IP manually, 192.168.1.10. Set the subnet mask to 255.255.255.0. Choose OK and close the Properties dialog box. You can always verify IP setting by right-clicking on the appropriate NIC. If you are presently connected to the DM8000, you should see the status text active. Choose Status. Choose Details. You should see that your PC is set for your static IP. Once you have set up your PC IP, let's open up the latest DM8000 DSP design software. You can verify you have the latest software and firmware by going to the Klark Teknik site and checking for the latest versions. Be sure to save the firmware to a location you can recall later. Also, be sure the firmware has been extracted if it has been downloaded as a zip file. Once we have the software open, we must first verify that the software is set up to talk to the appropriate NIC. Go to the main menu and choose Systems, and then choose Options. Go to the Network tab and verify that the appropriate NIC is active. If it is not, select Change NIC and choose the appropriate connection in the drop-down list. Choose Start Network Services from the System toolbar. You should see the Devices Connected light up in the lower left corner. This should indicate how many devices are presently active on your network. If your firmware is not up to date, you will receive a notice at this point. You will not be able to connect to the device if there is a firmware software conflict. See the firmware upgrade video on how to resolve and perform a firmware upgrade on the DM8000. If you have multiple DM8000s on the same network, the software only allows you to address one DSP at a time. You can have multiple active connections, but you will have to tab between designs and address each DSP separately. If you do not see a device connected at this time and you have not received a firmware update notice, you're probably having a Windows firewall conflict. One other common issue with communicating with DSPs is that the Windows firewall will block all communications. Generally, when you first try to establish a connection with the DM8000, you will get a dialog box that asks you if you wish to communicate with the DM8000. If you agree, Windows will add the DM8000 to your firewall exception list and allow open communications with this application. If this does not happen and you cannot establish connection, you will need to go into your PC Windows settings and manually turn Windows Firewall off for all connections. To manually turn off Windows Firewall, open Control Panel, choose Windows Firewall, turn all firewalls off. Make sure that after your session, you turn all firewalls back on. Once we are connected to the DM8000, we have two choices when it comes to dealing with a system design. You can either download a design to the device, which is taking whatever active compiled design is on our desktop and download it to the DSP, or we can open the design, which is grabbing the system from the DSP and loading it into your desktop. Let's try opening a design from the DSP first. Go to the main menu and choose View, and then choose Device Panel. You should see all your DSP devices listed in the dialog panel. Make sure your DSP is highlighted. Choose Open Design and you should see the DSP system design load on your desktop and the background will light up blue. The blue background is an indication you are presently online with the DSP, and any changes you make to parameters will be reflected in real time. To download your system file from the software to the DSP, simply open your design in the software. Verify you have started network services and you are online with the device. Go to the System toolbar and choose Download Design to Device. If you have not compiled your design at this point, the software will notify you that this needs to be done. Compiling your design is a way for the software to check the validity of your design and put it into a format that DSP can understand. Once you have a design that is compiled correctly, choose Download Design to Device. You will be asked to verify which device you want to load your system file to. Choose OK, and the software will give you an indication it has completed. Once it has completed, you should see your system with a blue background. This is an indication you are online with the device and all your changes are real time. The Devices panel also gives you access to the DSP system information. If you wish to change the device name, IP configuration, reboot, or set up RS-232 serial communications, this is all done through the Device panel. To view device system information such as serial number, device name, firmware version, and IP settings, choose Device Info from the Devices panel. If you want to change the device name, choose Set Device Name. If you wish to change the static IP, choose Set Internal IP. Note, you cannot turn DHCP off for the DSP. This means that if there is a DHCP server in your system, it will overwrite the internal static IP. If you wish to soft power cycle the DSP, choose the Reboot command. This action is used in a firmware upgrade. The device protection choice is for setting differing levels of security within the software. This will be covered in the DM8000 Design Software Overview video. The serial port settings choice is for setting up communication with third-party control systems. This will also be covered in third-party control video. Once you have completed your session with the DM8000, you may want to be sure you go back and set the PC NIC connection to obtain an IP automatically, or you may have IP conflict issues on other networks. Also be sure you turn Windows Firewall back on if you have turned it off. Well, that covers the basic setup of Ethernet communications with the DM8000. Be sure to search for other videos from Klark Teknik if you need further assistance with the DM8000.